From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, January the 11th, 2017. Israel's High Court today handed down a decision giving the state 30 days to either explain why women may not read from a Torah scroll at the Western Wall or allow them to do so. The landmark ruling gives the government until early next month to find, quote, good cause why women cannot read from the Torah at the holy site. Supreme Court Justice Eliakim Rubinstein wrote that the parties must explain why the petitioners should not be allowed to pray in accordance with their custom at the traditional plaza, or alternatively allow them to pray in accordance with their custom at a place which has access to the Western Wall, similar to access at the traditional site. Director of Women of the Wall, the organization that fights for equal rights for women to pray at the Kotel, Anat Hoffman, lauded the ruling. She said, today we have come much closer toward implementation of the Western Wall Agreement on gender equality and religious freedom at the Wall. She said, I am elated because when I was looking for justice and then courage, they were missing, and now the highest court in the land has shown me both. There are reports today of possible negotiations happening with terror group Hamas regarding the return of the remains of 2 Israeli soldiers who were killed in the 2014 Gaza war. The Times of Israel reports that a senior Hamas official told them that representatives from Qatar and Egypt are involved in mediating between Hamas and Israel. But that source emphasized that Hamas would not even begin to talk about the release unless Israel first releases 60 Palestinian prisoners. Hamas is believed to be holding the remains of IDF soldiers Oron Shaul and Hadar Golden, as well as detaining Israeli civilians Avraham Mengistu and Juma Ibrahim Abu Anima, both of whom crossed into Gaza of their own accord. The Arab-Israeli news site Kul al-Arab reported that Israel said it was willing to release the 60 prisoners on the condition that they would be expelled to Qatar, and that reportedly Hamas was said to have rejected that offer. There has been no confirmation from Israel to any of these reports. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met today with visiting President of Sierra Leone, Ernest Bai Koroma. The two leaders discussed the possibility of an Israeli delegation to the West African country to help in the areas of agriculture, energy, and security. Koroma, in his remarks to a joint press conference, extended his sympathies to Israel on the recent terror attack in Jerusalem.
Any act of violence, any wanton destruction of lives and properties anywhere demands condemnation by everyone.
Koroma called for restraint and constructive dialogue. And the City of Lights lit up its City Hall to show support for Israel. Paris joined Rotterdam and Berlin in showing solidarity with the victims of Sunday's attack in Jerusalem. Its City Hall was illuminated last night with the Israeli flag. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo tweeted a video of the display, writing, "Paris pays tribute to the victims of the attack in Jerusalem." Sunday's truck ramming by an Arab-Israeli terrorist left 4 IDF soldiers dead and over a dozen wounded. French news agency AFP reports that a notorious Nazi war criminal died some 16 years ago in Syria. Alois Brunner was an SS commander and the right-hand man of Adolf Eichmann. Brunner was in charge of the Drancy camp outside of Paris, from which over 100,000 Jews were sent to their deaths. A French magazine reported today that Brunner died in 2001 at the age of 89, locked up in a basement in Damascus. Veteran Nazi hunter Serge Klarsfeld called the investigative report about Brunner highly credible. The magazine cites 3 ex-members of the Syrian Secret Service who claim that Brunner had been confined and in poor conditions to underneath an apartment in the Syrian capital during the last years of his life. The New York Jewish Film Festival opens today. This is the 26th year of the festival, which is a partnership between the Jewish Museum and the Film Society of Lincoln Center. This year's films include a documentary about acclaimed and innovative Israeli choreographer Ohad Naharin, a documentary about assassinated Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, and a story of how the traditional dish of hummus ties together an Orthodox Jew, a Muslim, and a Christian. The festival runs through January the 24th. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Wednesday, January the 11th. At 8 o'clock, more coverage from the recent ADL Never Is Now conference on anti-Semitism with Hal Weitzman of the University of Chicago, who talks about the economic ramifications of anti-Semitism. And then at 8:30, Darren Walker, who is president of the Ford Foundation, discusses the ways in which charitable giving can be used to combat hatred with CEO of the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Shachar Azani of Stand With Us and Thane Rosenbaum of NYU's Law School to discuss media distortions of Israel and the growing threat of the BDS movement. That's in a program of the Westchester Jewish Council and the New Rochelle Jewish Coalition from Temple Israel of New Rochelle, New York. And at 9:30, Mark Golub sits down with Gary Kenzer, the National USA Executive Director of Honest Reporting, on L'chaim. And coming up right after this newscast tonight, it's Thinking Out Loud with Micah Halpern. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, January the 11th, 2017. I'm Teisha Bader.